So as the co-founder of a small company that sells modern home plans, small, modest, architectural modern home plans, I spend a lot of time thinking about why people make purchase decisions. Why do they buy the types of plans or houses that they do? Why do builders build the types of houses they do? So I want to have that conversation with all of you. And to start thinking through it, let's look at this simple graphic, which represents a older infill neighborhood in Houston. Let's say Montrose. Sweet 70-year-old craftsman bungalows. And one of them goes down. Let's say you let your termite protection lapse. And a lot goes for sale. A builder buys the lot, and he has to create a product. He has to create inventory that will sell. Ideally before the loan, before the bank comes looking for the money. So they build something that will sell, they demolish what's there, and it's usually big. All the way to the setbacks, 3 stories high. What are the values behind that decision for both the builder and the buyer? Unfortunately, first off, it says, I don't really care about my neighbors. And their access to luxuries like sunlight and views, probably going to create some drainage problems for your neighbors. But it's what happens routinely in our neighborhoods in Houston. Secondly, the other value that we can kind of question is the style choices that people make. You know, if you drive through a Houston neighborhood and, wow, it's like a Tuscan villa or a French chateau, and you think, well, that creates a sense of dissonance. Well, it should, because we live in Texas. You know, one day I want to go to France and like see a Houston ice house. That would be that would be really exciting. Actually, that's not a joke. It's probably the best idea I'm going to have here. So, you know, the whole world should be covered in ice houses. And then finally, this is the real problem. These houses are not generally built to last. So as the years progress, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you start seeing the imperfections, because the builder is really only cared about moving product. He's not, you know, as long as he gets past that warranty period, as long as he sells the house, it looks good enough for that, everything's good. But we're seeing this now in first-ring suburbs throughout the country, that these houses that were built 40 years ago are just deteriorating before our eyes. And then at the end of the day, what do you have? You start the whole cycle over again. Whole house goes in the landfill. Now, not every builder product in Houston is like that, but it's a somewhat exaggerated case, but it's a real problem. So what I want to talk today to you guys about is how can we reboot our value system when it comes to building, especially, you know, infill lots where you have the power to buy a lot and decide what's going to get built there. How can we reboot that value system to promote a whole different set of sustainable values? So let's start over again. Instead of something really big, let's build something that's appropriate and to scale. I have a modern home plan, so there's a modern house. That's my personal, you know, aesthetic, but I'm not saying by putting a modern house up there that, you know, everybody should build modern. I think traditional houses can be great. What's important to me is that, not that it be traditional, but that it be authentic. And that's difficult to do sometimes. If you have, you know, old world master craftsmen and old world materials at the ready, go for it. Build a authentic, beautiful, traditional, old world house. But that's not usually what happens. What usually happens is people build a facade. And what I think we need to do, and people who are really invested in the architecture and design communities, who really want to see better product built, I think we need to start helping people have conversations on a really simple level about what is authentic, What is sustainable? And I think we can look to the sustainable food movement as an example of how to do this. They do a great job of this. As an example, I remember when what were those chips called? Wow chips or something with Olestra in them. I remember when those came out, I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then someone told me, or I read that the synthetic fat that they were putting in it, like your body can't process it. It's so fake. And it like leaks through you. Really disgusting. I only had to hear that once, and I was not going to eat those chips. We need to have similar kinds of conversations with people, the actual people who end up buying and building houses. For instance, let's say you're looking at a house with a neighbor that just got built in your street, and you say, you see those decorative shutters next to the windows, the exterior decorative shutters? They don't have hinges. Think about that. Even if you could close them, they're so small they would not meet in the middle and cover the windows. When you have those kind of conversations, it makes people think, wow, that really is cheesy. That's really fake. I don't want that on my house. Or houses where they do a beautiful stone front only on the front. A stone exterior is supposed to communicate beauty and lasting durability, but only for 25% of the house, because the other 3 walls have, hardy plank. So your kids who are in the back of the house, enjoying the backyard, get to see the ugliest part of it, while total strangers drive by in cars and get to see the most beautiful part. We have to think along those lines, and we have to educate people about what is design integrity, what is beauty. So, small, authentic, or to scale of the neighborhood. And then also, I think people should be more involved in design. If they can hire a custom architect, fantastic. If they spend time thinking about a plan they want, or even a renovation, as long as it informs the end product, as long as they use the process to express themselves, to show that they have a stake in their community, that they want to convey their sustainable values or their aesthetic values to others, and let it be unique. Let it be an expression of that. Also, and I think this is really important, I think people who build homes should be more concerned with impressing their kids than impressing their friends and coworkers. And what do I mean by that? I mean, go through this thought exercise. 30 years from now, your kids grow up and they reflect back on a childhood growing up in the home that you provided for them, you built for them. Do you think they're going to think back on that and say to themselves, oh, the memories of that 6-burner stainless steel professional range, that 2-inch beveled granite countertop, that really informed me as a child, No, the things your kids are going to look back on and remember are, family spaces that everybody used. Sitting in a reading nook with natural light washing over them while they spend hours reading. Those are the kind of things, playing in green space, a backyard, you've built a house that allows for a backyard, playing with their dog in the backyard, climbing an oak tree, an old growth, 100-year-old oak tree that you allowed to live on your lot. Those are real memories that kids should have and we should give them. Also, I think another value, and really these are conservative family values, I mean that. So another we have here an elderly couple here in the middle. Houses should be designed so you can grow into them. Master bedrooms downstairs. So, you don't have to, change houses or upgrade or move into an apartment when you're old. Houses that allow for different generations, and also houses that people will want to hand down to generations. Something's not working there, but it's supposed to be a family tree. I don't see the other people. So, all of these values Moving, passing things down from generation to generation, doing things intentionally, thoughtfully, with the goal of sustainability. A lot of these ideas exist within what has come to be called the slow movement. And I mentioned before how the food movement, or the slow food movement, or the foodie movement, or organic movement, how much success those constituencies have had in getting people to think about what it is they build, what it is what it is they farm, what it is they consume, how they consume it, the pace with which they consume it, all of those issues. Fantastic success. And what I would love to see happen is for everybody to take up the question of housing and housing development with the same kind of urgency. So looking back, for instance, right from the beginning of the slow movement, it started with an Italian farmer, and he was really upset because McDonald's was opening the world's largest McDonald's franchise in Rome. 450 seats, and it really just, he freaked out. He couldn't handle it, and he just started this massive protest. What I think is interesting, though, is not like Italy didn't have bad fast food before that. They did. I've had some of it. But what really, I think one of the reasons he really popped his cork was the McDonald's was built on the steps of the Spanish Steps, the base of the Spanish Steps in the Roman Piazza. And it's just such a, it's not just a gastronomic crisis or a Italian food crisis, it's an architectural crisis. And I think we all have to start thinking about the role that housing plays with all of these slow movements, working slow, eating slow. You do these things inside homes. Increasingly, we work more inside the home as we move to a informational, information-based, telecommuting-based lifestyle. We really need to be thinking, it's going to be hard to adopt these new habits if we're constantly neurotically looking to upgrade our house or move into the next big house or accessorize our house. We need to calm down, and we need to find the space and the right envelope that respects our communities, respects our neighbors, and respects our children, that creates a legacy for our kids. So one of the things I want to say, besides talking about how I wish there was more sort of a parallel between the food and housing movement and the progressive values that are overtaking them. Here we go. Got some more McDonald's boxes. All right, so here is a brief map of all the slow food chapters in the United States. We even have one in Houston, one of the fastest, fattest cities in the country. But it's part of the national conversation. The slow home movement is basically that little white dot up there. 2 guys in Canada. The slowhome.org, they're doing admirable work. I really admire their site and what they're trying to get going, but it just hasn't caught on the way I believe it should. So what I want to talk about next is a fun little example of why I think it matters why it's important to build things that have a legacy. Many of you probably recognize this house. It's Houston's own beer can house. Took decades to build. Talk about sustainable, source your own beer cans by drinking them all, and reuse them on your house. When he did this, and I wish I remembered his name, but I remember the picture. It's a big beer gut. he did it because it was an expression of his own folk art impulses. But it was also an expression of Houston. I mean, this is Houston. Whimsical, fun, lighthearted, doesn't take itself too seriously, resourceful. And as a result, not only did he create a legacy and pass it on to, I think his wife survived him, it ended up becoming something that the entire community embraced. It's now owned by the Orange Show Foundation. They maintain it, they protect it, and it's something that is of value to our entire community, our big, messy, 6 million strong, 5 million, Dr. Kleinberg later, community of Houstonians who don't always agree on a lot of things, but there are some things that are really important to us, and this is one of our landmarks, as humble as it is. And I believe it's that because it's an expression of one man's vision. He took full advantage of the freedom that we have here in Houston to build whatever we want to build. We have very few zoning laws. We have very few, in some neighborhoods, deed restrictions. And I think that's great. If we had those deed restrictions in place, this never would have been built. And I want to suggest that if you look to the side, you have these huge townhomes. And 100 years from now, those townhomes won't be here. But that beer can house will. So, thank you.